People power growth, but recruiting and onboarding are expensive, exhausting, and absolutely overwhelming. I've been there, and it doesn't have to be this way. Welcome to Hire and Empower. I'm your host, Molly McGrath. Join me as we interview leaders who care about their teams and distill powerful lessons from them. This show is sponsored by H&E, helping organizations to find their best hire and empower them for success. Learn more at hiringandempowering.com. Oh, yes, we are talking about how to be a 2-hour lifestyle lawyer. It is true. It is tried, tested, and proven. And I have the founder and guru here with me today to tell us exactly how. So we have attorney Laura Cowan here, a 2-hour lifestyle lawyer, and she is going to share with us her ACE method in regards to, and she'll give you her backstory. She's not a marketing genius that just cooked this up in the kitchen during COVID and never practiced law. We are seeing all those people all over social media. We're getting hammered by that. Laura ran a successful law firm for how long, Laura? 8 years now?
6 years. 6 years, yeah.
Yeah. So welcome. Give our listeners your backstory. Let's hit it.
Hi, yeah, thank you for having me. So my backstory is I started out as a CPA, and I was a CPA for many years before going to law school. And I went to law school in 2010, I guess it was 13 years ago. So 2010, and opened my own firm in November of 2016. And I live in New York City. So I opened in the middle of New York City, and I did not have any clients. I did not have any experience doing estate planning, and I did not have any financial safety net. So I was kind of on my own, financially, not from an independently wealthy family or any of those things. So I had to get business basically in a really competitive legal market. And 6 years later, I've now got a high 6-figure law practice. I've been ranked the second best estate planning attorney in New York by Yelp out of over 800 lawyers. I've got 5-star Google reviews. I've spoken at the UN. I've really built a great law practice. And it was, it was 3 years pre-COVID and 3 years post. And so, which is kind of a weird split. And as everyone knows, the world has really changed in 3 years. So a lot of the things that I was doing for the first 3 years in my practice are very different now. But that's what I've built. It's a high 6-figure practice. And so now I've put all of my methods and everything that I've learned into the 2-hour lifestyle lawyer, which is the program that I'm working with students on now.
So you are using the exact methodologies that you have implemented yourself. And I love no safety net. I had to make money. I had to get clients if hanging this shingle gig was actually going to work. And you have proof of concept. You're here. Tell me, what was the niggle? What really came above for you to say, okay, I'm practicing attorney, successful, bravo, congratulations, 3 years pre-COVID, 3 years in the thick of the murk of all that. And what got you to a place of saying, I really want to teach other lawyers how to do this?
Yeah, so it all happened in May of 2022, so less than a year ago. And I noticed a couple of things online, just in the various Facebook groups that I'm a part of for attorneys. And there were a lot of attorneys that were looking to add estate planning as a practice area because it's a great practice area in a lot of ways. But one of the main reasons I think is that a lot of it you can now do virtually. Right. So I tell my students, we had the technology pre-2020 to do everything via Zoom, but it wasn't socially acceptable, right? Nobody would have hired you to do their will without having met you in person at your office and all of that. So a lot of it can be done virtually now. Then the second piece of it is that I think attorneys are like everybody else out there who's just kind of tired of working all the time and tired of kind of being pushed to this. You've got to build $1 million law firm. Now, if you want to build $1 million law firm, by all means, that's fine. But there seemed to be a niche for attorneys who wanted to get into estate planning, or they wanted to do better with their estate planning and not necessarily work a ton. And so as I was building this out, I work with a business coach, and it basically kind of got down to like, listen, I'm doing, 30, 40, $50,000 a month, and I only work a couple of hours a day on my estate planning practice, which was the God honest truth. Now, I did not get out of the gate like that. It was not like that on day one, 6 years ago, right? You definitely have to build it. But the point is, if you're an attorney and you're looking to have a lifestyle business where you want to make 10, 15, $20,000 a month consistently, working part-time so you can pick up the kids after school, or you do whatever, then I can teach you how to do that. And so I thought, I'm just going to start coaching people and just see what happens. And that's how it was born.
Oh my goodness. And now you're starting a new class here. And this is your third, fourth class, right?
My fourth cohort starts in 5 days, and I've got another one starting in February.
Oh my goodness. Congratulations. I agree with you. I don't even think it's just attorneys. So as you know, I've been in estate planning for 25 plus years. I'm very, very, very passionate about estate planning and elder law for multiple reasons. I always have been. I never knew anything about attorneys, thankfully, before I worked for a national organization. And I had all the head trash. I had all the stories about attorneys. They're arrogant, they're money grubbing, they're screamers, they're all the things that you hear. We all heard the lawyer jokes, right? And I walk into an organization called the National Network of Estate Planning Attorneys. And my first day on the job, went to Atlanta for what they call a collegium. And there's over 12,000 estate planning law firms. I mean, think about that back in the late 90s. They had a good chunk. I moved back, the last time I looked pre-COVID, there are only 22,000 estate planning law firms in the country. So not many. And I just fell in love with estate planning attorneys. I'm like, this is complete opposite of everything that I've been told about attorneys. They just lead with heart, very service-based, everything, and there's, prior to COVID, people litigators, big criminal defense firms, PI firms, what have you, like, no. Estate planning, it's not sexy. It's not glamorous. There's no hunt and kill. COVID hits. My phone is ringing off the hook from all my criminal defense, personal injury, insurance defense, law firms saying, hey, you've been talking about this estate planning stuff. How do I get in? And now people are they're like, I'm done. I'm burned out. I am trashed from the courtroom because courts shut down. Sit on your couch, actually get to see your kids, actually get to catch your breath. And the weight of the world on you, of course, because the world's shutting down, but also the flip side of that was a tremendous amount of perspective and reflection and what have you. And people were coming out, they're like, it's not all about the hustle anymore. It's not all about the grind anymore. My kids, I finally am like, oh my goodness, I didn't really realize that they have blue eyes. I always thought their eyes were brown. Like truly, I have one person in tears, buckets of tears, saying, I really didn't even realize the depth of my 5-year-old's eyes because of just on the hustle bus. And so now you have people that maybe you might be an estate planning attorney listening. You're like, what? I want 2 hours a day, $10,000 a month. That doesn't excite me. Well, maybe you have an associate attorney that would excite them to become a revenue generator. Maybe your criminal defense or some other area of law, and you are curious about estate planning and you want to add this as a division of your firm. And to Laura's point, it's not even part-time. If it's 2 hours a day, that isn't even part-time. So, I mean, less than part-time. And then you can get the foundation. Laura's going to share with us her ACE model, and then you can 10X the hell out of it if you want. Right?
Such a good way of putting it, 10X the hell out of it. That's what I tell people. I'm like, listen, get the basics in place. Don't go from I'm starting my law practice to I'm taking this course on how to build $1 million law firm. Like, that's great if you want to get there, but just get the consistency first, get the systems in place, and then you can start to scale it up.
Yeah. And I want to grab onto that because you said something about the Facebook groups that we both belong to, many of the attorneys listening to. More and more and more, I'm hearing from people. It's not about the $3-5 million law firm. I recorded a podcast this morning. I have an attorney immigration firm. And they're like, we have 10x every year. We've grown leaps and bounds, millions and millions of dollars, grown their team to 32 people or whatever. And the attorney pulls up in my Zoom room and he is destroyed, not sleeping. He's unhappy. He's stressed out. I'm like, so is money your definition of growth and success? Like, is this all worth it? Like, we need to take a step back here, brother, because, and to your point, many people I will hear constantly, and I'm just going to name the Facebook group that I think every attorney should belong to, that Regina Irene has done a beautiful job with, called Lawyers on the Beach, or Lawyer on the Beach. I don't know, plural or single, double check it and find it, but it's incredible. And so often I'm hearing people, I don't really want a $10 million law firm. My goal is not a 5 million. And these people are Bora Bora practicing. They're, sitting on the beach or servicing clients. But they have the life, they're a lifestyle lawyer. And I love that term that you've coined.
Yeah. Regina is great. I'm a member of Lawyer on the Beach. That's a fabulous group. I do encourage people to join. And I think that group's only a couple of years old, maybe.
Yes.
And I think that she's really hit a nerve as well, which is, that people, they want to be a lawyer, but they want to have a life. Right. And that's where
Yes.
the 2-hour lifestyle lawyer comes from. And so it was just something that I noticed in my own life and something that I noticed in the market as well. So I thought, let me see if I can package this and, help people who want to use their law degree, make some extra money, and also have a life and do great work, because estate planning is a great practice area.
Oh my goodness. Oh my God. All right. Walk us through your ACE model.
Yeah. So when I was sitting down trying to put everything together in terms of, why am I successful? What can I teach? How can I teach it? I realized it all comes down to, you've got like 3 buckets. You have to be successful in all 3 if you want to be successful as an estate planning attorney, earning good money, but not working all the time. And the first bucket stands for attracting leads. That's what the A is for. So you've got to be able to attract leads. And it's a little bit different with estate planning than I would imagine personal or injury or criminal defense. People aren't necessarily like in a panic to hire you, right? They kind of know that they need an estate plan, but there's some nurturing involved. There's some education involved. So how do you get in front of people in a way that doesn't cost a lot of money? We recommend holding webinars or seminars if you want to do it in person, but just educating a large group of people in a way that they can see you, they like you, and then you've got a strong call to action, which is to book a meeting with you. But at least you get that initial education done in a big group setting, and that's going to save you time. So that's the attracting leads. The closing leads, I always tell my students, there's no point spending time or money getting people in the door if you don't have a system in place for getting them to say yes. And this is especially important for attorneys who've never really held an estate planning consultation, which is fine, because I had never done it either when I first started. So we teach you how to do it, but there's some hurdles to get over. You've got to get over the, can I just do this myself, or can I just do this on LegalZoom, or I didn't think it would cost that much. Again, people are in a different frame of mind than they are if they've just gotten their 3rd DUI. So that's fine. It just means you need to be taught, how to educate the client or the prospect in that initial consultation, when to show your fees, how to package your fees, how to do it all in a way that you're driving them towards making a decision, because you've made it clear that it's going to be more expensive for them not to hire you than it is to hire you. Right. So that's the C. And then the E is all about executing the work. It's great if you're getting all this business, but not if it keeps you tethered to the office until 10 o'clock at night. Right. So what can you delegate to a rock star staff member? And I know that you talk about this in your course. What can you outsource? You as the attorney should be focused on getting the business, presenting to your community, doing those things. And then a lot of what happens around that can either be automated or a staff member can do it for you. That's what gets you down to the 2 hours a day. So I call it ACE, and I think that you have to be good at all three. And I think that my program is the only one that I know of that teaches you all three, because there's a lot of people out there that are helping you maybe find leads, and we all need leads, but there's no point in getting leads if you can't close them. Right. And then you've got to have your systems in place, and you've got to have your staff. So you've got to have all three pieces. And I talk about this in my discovery calls with attorneys who are interested in joining the program. And I always stop at this point in the presentation and I say, okay, so tell me, which letter do you need the most help with? And I love asking, because I always get a different answer. Like
I'm curious.
I know a third of the people say I need help with the A, a third say I need help with the C, a third say the E, and then there's always a handful who says, I need help with all three.
Okay.
But there's never any one, and that tells me that I'm onto something, because it just shows that attorneys really, they don't just need help getting leads, they need help with everything else.
They always say that, always. All the years that I've talked about, I'm like, what's your number one pain? Getting leads, attracting leads, and what have you. I'm like, wait, time out. Let's pull initial contact focuser. See how many people called into your office this month, this year, this quarter, what have you. Okay, great. Especially if you want to be a 2-hour lifestyle lawyer. Especially for, honestly, there's very rarely a firm that I'm like, yeah, you definitely have a lead generation problem. That's few and far between, because I'm like, well, how much money do you want to make? And yes, we're going to talk about making money, because you're entrepreneurs. How many clients do you want to serve? For those of my social workers that don't like the word money in closing, but it's fascinating to me, because I'm like, what's your conversion rate? I will hear over and over and over again, oh gosh, close to 100%, 80 to 90%. Like, really? That's fascinating. Wow. Can you show me a report? Can you back that up? Well, no, everyone that comes in the office hires us. I'm like, well, hang on, time out. They may come into the office today and sit with you and not come back for 6 months and hire you because somebody died, or there was, to use your analogy, they're having a third DUI moment of some sort that brings them back in there. So it's not necessarily considered a conversion if they came back 6 months later. You didn't close them there. Maybe your nurture campaigns, what have you. But I love that you work on that: attract, close, and execute. So the attracting piece of it now, all right, we're talking about 2-hour lifestyle lawyer, working part-time-ish, ask whatever your definition of that is. So how do we attract clients? Because I assume if this is your model to generate $10,000, $20,000 a month, a very nice living. Especially if you have it's a division of your practice, or maybe you're a newbie hanging your shingle, or maybe you're transitioning in from another area of law. That is nothing to sneeze at for 2 hours a day.
Or retiring. Yeah.
Or retiring.
Mm-hmm.
Exactly. And maybe you want to do this to keep your mind sharp and to continue to have purpose and impact and income. So the attract piece, how do you attract people? And I'm not asking you to give away all the secret sauce, but if I assume you're not spending a tremendous amount of money on retail and lead generation and marketing, if your goal is to make $10,000 to $20,000, right?
Right. And that's a good way of putting it. You're in a different mindset if your goal is only to generate $10,000 or $20,000, but to do it consistently and not have to rely on referrals. So what I teach my students is, first of all, there's no magic bullet, right? Every month I get business from former clients who refer me, financial advisors, CPAs, my BNI group, people who just find me online, all the different ways people come in. But the number one source of lead generation that I found is just by holding events, either seminars or webinars. And, the reason this works so well is because there's that education piece that I spoke about before. People aren't necessarily ready to pull the trigger. They're not even ready to book a consultation. The only thing that they're willing to commit to is, okay, I'll watch an educational webinar and then I'll see, right? So it gives you a chance to educate them on the benefits of estate planning and all the different things, and then to also talk a lot about your process. The mistake that I see most attorneys make in their webinars is they already feel salesy doing a webinar, which is a mistake, but they already feel
Yes.
that way. So then at the end, they feel salesy saying anything. So they just get to the end and they're like, okay, if you have any questions, give me a call.
Yes.
And then nobody calls, you know?
And then they're
Um,
upset.
and then they're like, it doesn't work. And you know, and so, and that's what I've seen, and that's what I've gotten from my data has told me. So what you've got to do is you've got to have a strong call to action. You've got to I spend a good 10 minutes at the end of the event talking about, okay, these are the next steps with my firm. And at that point in time, you're selling the consultation, right? So first you're just selling the webinar, and then you're selling the consultation, and you just want them to get that next baby step forward. Come in for a consultation. These are all the benefits of the consultation. You're going to learn, we'll go over your numbers and your family, and we'll talk about the will and the trust with your specific circumstances, and we'll go over our packages and our fees. And even if you decide not to move forward, you're going to leave very clear about what you need and what you don't need, et cetera. So you just want them to take that next step. And then at the next step, you start to sell the estate plan. So I've been doing these events, I'll call them, since I opened in 2016. For 3 years, they were in person. And, I've had some real duds. I mean, it wasn't like I was selling out, whatever stadium, I've had events where only 3 or 4 people showed up, but 2 or 3 of them hired me. And that's $10,000 in revenue,
Absolutely.
So I want people to kind of get past this idea that I have to have 50 people show up. One of my students who lives in Texas, she said, I gave my first webinar, only 2 people showed up, but they both hired her.
That's a home
Right?
run. That's
I know.
100% conversion.
I know. And I've had similar. I mean, I've had events where my best event ever was an event that I gave in April of this year to a mom's group in New York City. They reached out to me. They had found me online and asked me to present. So that was like, that doesn't normally happen, but they kind of fell in my lap. But the leader of the group, advertised the event for me within the group. I didn't spend a penny, in other words. I
Yeah,
had over 100 people sign up for the event. I had over 70 people show up,
great.
and I got over $80,000 in business from that one event that I didn't spend any money advertising.
How long was the event? Hour, 2?
It was an hour. And we're now into, it's like 8 months later, and I still get meetings booked from people who are like, I was at your webinar in April. So that's way beyond the norm. I'm not in any way promising those
No, but
results.
it happens. Expect miracles, right?
Yeah. And then what happens is even at the end of the event, if someone doesn't hire you, what I always do is I tell people, take the next step, book your session, here's the link. And also, if you know of a group, or you've got a friend group or a work group or an event coming up that you would like me to speak, if you think that this information has been helpful and would be helpful to your friends, let me know, and I'm happy to come present to your group, right? So you may not get a client out of it, but you might get another speaking engagement. And then the ball just starts to roll.
And you also have to remember, so you're getting the leads too. So many people, I want to hit on 2 things. Number 1, the webinar that only 2 people showed up to. We've all had that, and that will forever happen. And to your point, so many times attorneys will throw in the towel and say it didn't work. Well, think about it. 2 people that you met with, that would have been 2 hours of time versus 1 hour of time. Then you have 2 people that hired you. There's your $10,000. That's a home run. So your commitment is not necessarily to, the results per se, sales after that event. Even if, let's say you have 10 people that register, or 15 or 7 or what have you, you're getting their email address, you're adding them to your database, you're connecting with them. So the measuring stick is not just closing. The measuring stick is not just hires. The measuring stick also is lead generation, as long as you're consistently connecting and nurturing with the people.
Exactly. And that's what I tell my students as well. And I'm sure that you teach the same thing, which is when you're advertising the event, tell people, even if you can't make it, register anyway, and we'll send you the replay. You want to collect their email at a minimum, because then you can do what you said, which is start nurturing them. And then, as your email list starts to grow, that's going to be one of the groups that you can advertise your events to. right? So maybe someone who signed up for your event 6 months ago, but then wasn't able to make it. Well, now they can make it 6 months later, and now they're a client. So the ball starts to roll once you get going.
So tell me about, all right, so we have attract, we have closing, we have execute. I love what we're talking about right here. What am I doing with my 2 hours, give or take, a day? What does the average attorney, how are they spending their 2 hours? If I'm listening to this, I'm like, Laura, I'm all in. I'm really willing to try this on. That sounds delightful to me. I'm sick of my current area of practice, and or I'm ready to have an associate hop onto this and really start getting the webinars going, start to be able to put estate planning on our branding, our website, all that jazz. What are they spending their 2 hours on each day?
Yeah, so you as the attorney are going to be focusing your efforts on the A and the C, right? So educating your community, presenting. Now, having said that, your staff members should be responsible for helping book these engagements for you, right? It can be their job to find groups and communities and get you on the calendar, but then you have to show up and present. You can use the same webinar over and over, right? You don't have to recreate the wheel. So yeah, you should spend your time presenting, and then in that initial consultation, closing. That should be the attorney as well. A lot of what happens around that, the follow-up on the webinar, that should be done by a staff member. People who attended but haven't booked a meeting, or people who signed up but didn't attend, yeah, that can all be automated. But I know that you and I both agree that having someone from your firm pick up the phone and call is good
Yes,
too. So your staff member can be doing that. The attorney should be doing the design meeting. So that's after they've hired you and you're taking the time to go through and design the estate plan and get all the information you need to prepare the documents. I recommend outsourcing or delegating the drafting. You should have drafting software, and you can have either a qualified staff member do the drafting for you. And the drafting, if you're using the software, a lot of that is data entry, right?
yes,
So I'm
yeah,
not implying that you're kind of shirking your responsibilities. You're gonna review the
sure.
documents after they've been generated, but it takes time to input the data, and so that should be done by someone else. Um, the signing, this is a whole new thing post-COVID, and I'll take a step back from that as well. There used to also be a meeting in there, the document review session. And I do like the idea of taking the time to review the drafts with your clients. But what a lot of attorneys are doing now is they're actually pre-recording a video
Yeah,
on Loom or something like that, that explains the documents in great detail. They send it to the client and they can watch it in their own time. If you've got 10 clients a month, that's 10 hours that you're saving of kind of monotonous, tedious work of kind of reviewing the documents. You know what I'm saying? So like you record a generic video and you send that to the client. It's another one of those things that was we could have done pre-2020, but it wouldn't have been
yeah,
socially acceptable. And I think it is now. So
it
that kind of
is.
gets you out of the review. And then the signing, if you're doing that in person, I think a paralegal can handle that.
Well, a lot of paralegals are even doing the document review. So I do have paralegals that are recording the Loom and sending it or what have you, or sometimes it'll even be fun where the attorney will pop their head in the Loom screen and just say, hi, Mrs. Smith, what have you? Great to see you. Susie's going to take over your document review. Can't wait to have a great day. And they leave. So, I mean, there's so many different creatives. So if I hear you right, it's the webinar, for lack of a better term. If you're in person, a lot of my firms are still in person. So if you're doing seminar or whatever terminology, workshop works for
Mhm.
you, then absolutely. But you record it once or you do it live once and it's 1 hour. So there's 1 hour a week. Let's just, for conversation purposes, you're doing an event once a week. Maybe you're doing multiple ones, 1 hour a day or what have you. And then if I hear you correctly, it's in the conference room. If you have a virtual office, the Zoom room still coined as a conference room, and you're closing. You're having clients, you're inviting them to hire you. You're inviting them to allow you to protect their assets and to protect their family and their stuff. So what I'm hearing from you, and this is what I love about estate planning, and I'm by no means do I mean to disrespect all the hard work all of you have put into going to law school and getting, and I'm fully, wholly aware of the liability that's at risk. Your name's on the door. I understand there's a thing called malpractice. There's a thing called the Bar Association. I'm very clear on that. But doing your due diligence, as you said, you're reviewing your documents, you are consulting the client, you are counseling the client in that design meeting, absolutely has to be done by an attorney. That's it. And I don't mean that to belittle, please hear me loud and clear, your law degree. Your law degree allowed you to hang your shingle. Your law degree allows you to be who you are and visible and present and be within your marketplace, what have you. But you don't have to do everything. And in fact, when you have a team-centric approach, clients love that, because if it's just you as a solo doing everything, drafting documents, and I know I'm going to get a tremendous amount of pushback from this, but drafting documents, not practicing law. So many attorneys I know are, now let me just say that really clear, data entry and
Data entry.
drafting
Yep.
the documents. You're the architect. I'm coming in to hire you to build me a $10 million custom home. I want to meet with the architect who's going to tell me the best practice approach. You're going to put this here, otherwise your whole house is going to flood. You're going to do this. So you're the architect, and then you're handing it over to your contractors to start building. So I'm not negating that, but the thing is, so many attorneys will turn drafting trusts into a masterpiece and a work of art. And I'm like, okay, talk to me about this or what have you. And when I really drill it down, I'm like, you're basically spending 80% of your time on formatting. You're basically spending so much time on customization. So like the clients love them. No, the clients really don't love them. They love them because you tell them they should love them. They don't
Right.
even know the difference. They want your available eyes. They want your presence. They want to feel acknowledged. They want to feel seen. They want to feel heard. And they want to make sure that the clauses, that the articles within the document are going to protect their family and their stuff and their wishes. But when you spend all this time creating a clause into a work of art and a dissertation and a masterpiece, the reason they love it is because you tell them they should love it.
I agree with all of that. I really do. And it's frustrating when you get comments, you're implying I'm kind of shirking my responsibilities as an attorney in some way. And I of course, I don't let it bother me. And it's the other analogy is, when you call your doctor's office, how many things does the doctor not do? They don't pick up the phone. They don't set the appointment. They don't take your weight. They don't take your blood pressure. There's a whole bunch of things that happen before
They're
that until
typically in the room for like under 5 minutes, especially
yeah. And then someone else does
the
the rest,
nurse
and then you go,
practitioner,
nurse comes
PA.
back, and yeah, you're at the end of the day, you're not really doing your clients any favors by doing every piece of the puzzle. You're actually doing them a great service by doing the piece of the puzzle that you as the attorney need to focus on, and then focusing on that laser like and having the other pieces done by support staff. So that's kind of a hurdle that we have to get over in terms of some lawyers, that they really associate working long hours with being a good attorney. And I think that needs to change.
Yes, it
Just for our
absolutely.
sake, like it's okay if you're not answering your own phone. And again, I'm only speaking to estate planning. I've never practiced another area of law, and I do
Sure.
think that there's big differences between them.
Mhm.
But yeah, a lot of what you do can and should be handled by a qualified paralegal assistant, etc. That's what they're there for.
That's what they're there for. And the clients love it, because if you're just the guy or gal and you're the brain surgeon that is answering the phone, and you're the brain surgeon that is handling every single meeting, and they're going to get a little nervous. Like, all right, is this guy or gal really the best if they have time to answer their own phone? Number one. Number two, what happens if something happens to them? Like we're talking about in the workshop, the webinar, in the conference room, like what if they drop dead of a heart attack? What's happening to my documents? And so the team-centric approach is really that safety net and that security for the clients. So Laura, tell us, like, who's your program for? What if I know nothing about estate planning? I've been deeply curious, and it's something that I'm very attracted to, or maybe I'm an established estate planning practice. Is this program for either one of those camps?
Yeah, so I find that my students fall into three buckets. They're either people who are brand new to estate planning and are just maybe hanging their own shingle, or they're just adding it for as a practice area to their current firm, but they're kind of brand new to estate planning. And that's fine, because I do have a module on teaching the basics of estate planning, and I've got a coach who does a weekly coaching call to get you up to speed on the actual kind of substantive law. The second group are attorneys who've been doing it for a while, but they're struggling, right? And even attorneys who were successful in some ways, but not others. I think I already mentioned the guy. I spoke with an attorney earlier today who his gross revenue was $415,000. Did I mention this guy?
No,
Yeah.
we talked about it before we recorded.
Oh,
Tell
that's
us.
right. I just couldn't believe it. Of course I
Yeah,
won't name
because
any
that's when I'm
names, but
like, stop. We got to tell this story.
yeah, so he was last year, his second year in business, he brought in $415,000 in business, which is
Great.
wonderful. But then he told me that his expenses exceeded that. So the firm actually lost money. So whatever he's spending money on is more than $415,000. So that's a great example of it's not just about getting the business, right? This
Mm,
is where the team comes in, and what are you doing, and what are you spending your time on that you shouldn't be, and what are you investing in that you shouldn't be, et cetera. So there's a lot of attorneys in that bucket. They're like, I'm doing it, I'm making money, but something's not right. And then you've got people who are either just retiring out of estate planning or retiring in general. And they're like, I want to have something to do, just like you said earlier. I'm retiring, but I want to spend a few hours doing something. And that's the beauty of estate planning, is that once you dial it in and you know how to do it, you know how to get business, it's going to be a resource that you have for the rest of your life.
mm.
You can be 70 and do some estate plans and make $5, $6, $7,000 a month. You can't beat
Easily.
that. Yeah,
Yeah,
easily.
easily. It gives you purpose. And so what I love about what you said, it's really a exit strategy, if you will, as well, because I think so often when I say to people, when they call me, what's your exit strategy? Well, I'm never going to retire. I need to keep my brain sharp. I went into law because I want to serve people. Well, you can stay connected to the heartbeat of your clients. You can stay connected to the heartbeat of your community and continue to honor and serve your law degree that you've worked so incredibly hard for, because you're very proud of it and it's part of your identity and who you are. So you continue to serve it without the stress. So what I'm hearing from you, it's not an either or. It's a way to find an and in your world, and do it in a way, like you said, the lifestyle lawyer. Because so many attorneys that I talk to day in and day out, they will wear, I'm so busy, I'm so stressed out, I'm working harder than everyone, I don't see my kids as like this badge of honor. Like, nobody's impressed by that, number one. Number two, and you wonder why your associates don't want to become partners or what have you, because they're looking at you as the model and they're like, yeah, no, thanks. I don't want any of that. So pay attention. Your kid, we always hear your kids are watching you. It's not what you say, it's what you do, what have you. Your team's watching you. Your clients are watching you. I always say you're responsible for the energy you bring in a room and you leave in a room. So if you are showing up or you are stressed out, you are on pins and needles, and you are what's your measuring stick? What is your definition of success? Money and growth? Because growth does not need to mean bloody and bruised.
And it doesn't need to mean $1 million either.
Nope.
And I asked this to my students, and I asked it in my discovery calls, like, really, what is your target revenue? Just be honest. And I do get people who are like, I want to make, at least 50 grand a month. But the vast majority of people answer, I mean, I've had people answer as low as 5,000 a month. It's usually, I would say, between 5 and 15,000 is what most people answer. Now, those are people who were attracted to my advertising, and so that's the sample. But it just tells me that there's a niche out there that's really kind of being ignored. And that's the niche of attorneys who don't want to build a huge law practice. They just want to have the consistent revenue doing important work. And by all means, if you take what I teach you and you want to scale it up, do
Go
it.
for it.
Yeah.
The model's still the same. The model's still the same and the foundation's still the same. It's just a matter of how much more, what are the resources we have? Time, money, and energy. So, and so many people are like, what are the resources? Time and money. Like, the most important one is energy. Because when you are exhausted and you are on the brink of a breakdown, everybody can feel it. So just paying attention to that. So I love that, whether your number's 5,000, 10,000, or 50,000 or more, the model still works. But in essence, your program's really teaching them the ABC model. So let me just ask this.
The ACE model.
ACE
Right.
model. Thank you. Let me ask you this real question in closing that just came to me. I will hear all the time in my law firm admin bootcamp. I'm a huge fan of the workshop and webinar model. We've been teaching it since 1997 when we used to do them in conference rooms and what have you. People are getting back to them, what have you. And so many staff members will come to my law firm admin bootcamp and say, my attorney won't get on camera. My attorney will not get on stage. I had this morning somebody say to me, no, I won't get on. I won't make a video, because I asked them to make a video we're doing recruiting efforts for them. Do you help people with that, of how to overcome and how to just do it, if you will?
Yeah, and the way that I help that is I tell a very short story that I'll tell you now, which is I gave my first presentation, a seminar in person in April of 2017, so about 5 months into my law practice. And the reason I did it was because I had just been told by so many people, like, this is how you get business, right? So I was absolutely terrified. I'm more of a public speaker now, but I wasn't back then. I can't tell you how nervous I was. Like, I mean, I was that person who in college, when they hand out the syllabus and it says there's a presentation on there, I was like, oh crap,
Yeah.
like I am not a natural presenter, but I did it because I had to get business. And so I went and I advertised and I got 6 people to show up. 6 moms were there, and I had like my little projector and I had my cheese tray and all the things. And I had never actually even gotten an estate planning client at this point. So I was really new. I got up there, I had my slides, my presentation, I finished. And at the end, one of the women came up to me and she said, thank you for presenting. And then she said, I was actually really nervous about attending this event, which I thought was really weird because I was like,
Yeah.
why? Okay.
You're nervous. I'm the one who's
yeah,
up here.
exactly. And like, this is like, we're sitting in a church with 6 people on the Upper West Side, like what? But anyway, but she said, I was really nervous about attending because I thought you were going to make me feel stupid. And
Aw.
that was my reaction. I almost burst into tears, and then she almost burst into tears, and then we hugged, but really the point is, people, they want this information, they need the information, they care about their families, but they're intimidated. And a lot of people, and I'll go ahead and say probably mostly women, have been made to feel stupid in a lot of situations if they don't really know what's going on. So if you can get up and present to people in a way that doesn't make them feel stupid, that's giving them valuable information that they want to have because they want to protect their families, you'll never lack for business, right? And so look at it less as, oh, I'm presenting, I'm asking for
Yes.
business, I'm being salesy, and look at it more as there might be someone in the audience who's sitting there, they're nervous, they're overwhelmed, they've never hired a lawyer before. You can make it as easy as possible, and you're doing your community a huge service. And she ended up hiring me. But I think of that every time I present. It matters what you're doing. So think of it that way.
It's not about you. It's not about you at all. So if you are committed to your why, you are committed to making a difference. That's all that matters. Just show up. For anyone listening, I will tell you, I was like you, I did not like public speaking. Same thing. I'd see that oh crap is right. I will tell you, feel the fear and do it anyways. When I tell people I would never be on camera, when I tell people that anyone listening to this that knew me in the early days, I hated public speaking. I would literally be shivering. It was not my favorite thing. You have to do that thing. You have to continue to do it. Feel the fear and do it anyways is a book I would highly, highly recommend. The second one, and I don't know the author, just Google it on Amazon, you'll find it. The second one is Failing Forward by John Maxwell. Those are two incredible books that I would say. But if you are an attorney and you have a service-based heart, just keep showing up. Anchor to Laura's story. Be like, they are sitting in the crowd. They're intimidated. They're scared. They're nervous as well. We're all in this together. My job is to educate, to motivate. My job is to help save the family farm. My job is to help save the family from throwing knuckles over mom's deathbed. That's my job. That's my commitment. That's my why. So I'm going to show up and I am going to educate from that place versus me looking stupid or me being uncomfortable, what have you, because it's not about you.
Exactly.
So Laura, tell us, how can our listeners find you?
Yeah, so the best way to find me is to go to 2hourlifestylelawyer.com. So that's the number 2 and then ourlifestylelawyer.com. And there's a call to action on there, which is to book a discovery Zoom. And I say it's a Zoom because it is a Zoom, not a call. So the discovery Zoom, it'll either be with me and probably a couple of other attorneys. We're trying to do this in a group format, just like I teach my lawyers to do. And I'll learn a little bit more about you, your practice, what you need help with. We'll talk about the program, the investment. We've got a new cohort starting usually every month, but we do cap it at a certain number of attorneys, so space is limited. And you can just learn more about the program. And if you're a great fit, then that's great. And if not, I hope to be a resource for you in other ways going forward.
Okay, thank you so much for your time and your knowledge and your commitment and passion for estate planning today. I really appreciate it.
Thank you for having me.
All right, we'll have all the links. We'll have Laura's links to her website, her social channels, all that good stuff in the show notes for those of you that are on your computer, what have you. Otherwise, 2hourlifestylelawyer.com, you know what to do. Book a discovery call. And until then, go forth. Listen, share this podcast with your friends, with your colleagues, what have you. Make sure you subscribe at the bottom of the podcast so you can get more valuable information. We are constantly having thought leaders like Laura that serve the legal space here to support you and give you drive-by coaching and nuggets to support you in creating the best life and practice that you can. We've reached the end of another impactful conversation on the Hire and Empower podcast. Whether this was your first episode or you're a longtime listener, I know you can tell I have passion for people. Whether you're a business owner, employee, executive, or hiring manager, I understand the situation you're in. Hiring, onboarding, and leadership is expensive, exhausting, overwhelming, and if that's not enough, it's also time-consuming. My friends, it doesn't have to be this way. There is a team at H&E that has your back. For over 25 years, they've transformed over 4,000 law firms into efficient, effective, profitable assets for their business and made it fun to come to work again. Check out our Smart Hire solution, our employee leadership program, and the 66-day law firm turnaround at hiringandempowering.com. This episode is being sponsored by Legal Ease Marketing. Listen, law firms have many ebbs and flows, and we tend to see this typical pattern. When things around the office are slow, lawyers get better at following up. But when the bustle is back, they tend to drop the ball. What if you had a system in place that not only automated follow-ups, but could guide potential clients seamlessly through the intake process and beyond? The team at Legal Ease works with your firm to create a custom pipeline of emails, text messages, and follow-up calls sent to your leads when you want them to be sent. Whether it's a consultation confirmation email sent a minute after the request goes through, long-term nurture emails sent 6 months later, a request for Google reviews sent to the most opportune times, they put a system in place that improves your client experience while taking tasks off of your plate. Or maybe you're already rolling in a software or CRM, but it's not set up as you want. Or perhaps you know you could be maximizing your automations more. Sometimes it's hard to tell what you need without a deep dive into your account. That's where Legalese audits and analysis come in. First, their team will learn everything about your processes and how you intend them. Then they'll go through your automations and map out the needed changes. Lastly, you'll discuss a plan forward and how to make your optimized office a reality. Legalese team pushes the boundaries of what automation can do to help your firm operate in ways you think were possible. Don't let potential clients slip through the cracks by not following up with them. Schedule a consultation today with Legalese Marketing. They look forward to helping you create more time, consistency, and your KPIs. To learn more, go to legalesemarketing.com and book your free consultation call today.